Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will discuss John Milton's Paradise Lost, Book 2nd. Paradise Lost, Book 2nd, published in 1667. John Milton, 1608-1674. Summary of Book 2nd. The Infernal Council and a Satan's Journey. Book 2nd of Paradise Lost begins in the infernal court of Pandemonium, where Satan, having been cast out of heaven along with his fellow rebel angels, presides over a grand council of devils. The purpose of this meeting is to determine the course of action that the fallen angels will now take to retaliate against the God. The council is conducted with a great ceremony and a rhetorical flourish, reflecting Milton's emulation of classical epics and his deep understanding of political and philosophical debate. Satan, the prince of hell, opens the floor with his suggestions. The first speaker is Moloch, a fierce and a warlike spirit who argues for open war against the God. Moloch believes that they have nothing left to lose and that dying in battle is preferable to living in defeat. He advocates for an immediate assault on heaven, even if it means total annihilation. His speech is passionate, filled with rage and despair, reflecting the mindset of a fallen being who chooses destruction over submission. The second speaker, Bilal, counters Moloch's suggestion with a calm and persuasive speech. Bilal is described as slothful and morally corrupt. Yet his eloquence masks his cowardice. He argues that open war is futile because God's strength is absolute and the previous defeat proves that further rebellion would only increase their suffering. Instead, he suggests they do nothing, hoping that God may eventually forgive them or at least leave them alone. His argument is essentially for passive inaction disguised as prudence. Next, Mammon speaks. Representing greed and materialism, Mammon rejects both war and idle waiting. Instead, he proposes that the devil should accept their condition and try to make the best of hell. He advocates for building a powerful empire in the infernal world, filled with wealth and grandeur, choosing independence from heaven over servitude. His proposal is pragmatic, focused on self-reliance and contentment in damnation. The final and most important speech is given by Beelzebub, Satan's chief lieutenant and the voice of calculated strategy. Beelzebub introduces a plan that appears to already have Satan's approval. He suggests that instead of attacking heaven directly, they should strike at God's new creation, that is, man, who inhabits the newly created world. By corrupting mankind, they can exact their revenge and undermine God's intentions without engaging in direct warfare. This cunning and subtle approach is met with a unanimous approval, and the devils agree on this course of action. After the plan is accepted, Satan declares that he himself will undertake the dangerous mission to find and corrupt humanity. His announcement is met with applause and admiration from the infernal assembly. However, Milton's portrayal is laced with irony. Although Satan appears noble and heroic, his motivations are deeply selfish and are driven by revenge, pride, and hatred. Satan departs from Pandemonium and begins his journey. He approaches the gates of hell, which are guarded by two monstrous figures, sin and death. Sin is described as a female monster with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a serpent, surrounded by hellhounds. She is Satan's daughter, born from his head when he first conceived a rebellion against God. Death, that is the son of sin, is a shadowy, terrifying figure, the offspring of an incestuous union between sin and Satan. When Satan approaches the gate, a dramatic exchange ensues. Sin recognizes Satan as a father and a creator, and though death attempts to attack him, sin restrains him. Satan persuades sin to open the gate, promising that by corrupting mankind, they will gain dominion over the earth and establish a new realm for the evil reign. Sin agrees, and the gates of hell are thrown open, a moment described with immense cosmic power and imagery. This opening of hell's gate symbolically unleashes chaos and corruption into the universe. Satan then enters the vast region of chaos, a dark, turbulent space between hell and the created universe. The description of chaos is one of the most powerful in the poem. Milton portrays it as an unformed, stormy abyss filled with warring elements and confusion. Chaos itself is a ruler, and Satan negotiates with him to find a path to earth. Chaos, impressed by Satan's boldness and intrigued by the potential disruption of God's order, guides him toward the newly created world. As Satan journeys through his abyss, he faces a series of metaphysical dangers, shifting matters, black whirlwinds, bottomless gulfs, and elemental warfare. The passage is not merely physical, but symbolic of the spiritual and moral chaos Satan embodies. Finally, after this long and perilous journey, Satan reaches the borders of the universe and stands at the edge of creation. He sees the new world suspended from heaven by a golden chain, and he gazes at it with a mixture of envy, hatred, and ambition. The world is beautiful and ordered, in a sharp contrast to the disarray he has passed through. As the book ends, Satan prepares to enter earth and begins the corruption of mankind, setting the stage for the fall. Now let's analyze the characters and symbol dynamics. Satan, portrayed as a tragic, ambiguous anti-hero, eloquent yet morally bankrupt, combining Byronic charisma with existential defiance. Next, Beelzebub, the true voice of a strategy, cautious and manipulative, hinting at a collective guilt and a moral complicity. Next, characters Sin and Death embody Milton's allegory. Their incestuous origin mirrors how rebellion breeds ruin. Now let's analyze the thematic and theological exploration. First, free will and determinism. Despite the fall, the angels remain active agents. Satan freely chooses deceit over direct compact, reflecting Milton's defense of human moral agency. Evil's proliferation. Sin and death, born of Satan, literalize that evil begets evil, an unending cycle Milton warns against. Just war versus subversion. Milton contrasts Moloch's pride-fueled rage with Beelzebub's cunning subversion, depicting spiritual conflict not as heroism but a cosmic deceit. Cosmic geography and symbolism. Pandemonium is the grandeur of sin, gates of hell, warning barrier, chaos, existential limbo, Eden, innocence yet to be corrupted. Political allegory reflects Milton's contemporary world. Post-Civil War debates can be found in angelic orations, war, accommodation, self-determination. Literary art history. Epic grandiosity. Scenes echo Homer and Virgil. Council, catalogues of spirits, cosmic trouble. Rhetoric over reality. Each angel's oration reveals moral fails. The rhetoric is seductive but a bankrupt. Poetic imagery. Book second is rich in cosmic elemental metaphors, contrasting structured orders and chaotic voids. Now let's analyze the ongoing relevance. Questions leadership legitimacy. Is bold defiance of Satan and Moloch more noble than ethical restraint of Belial? Explores how evil ideas spread, not by force, but through charismatic persuasion, a theme tragically relevant today. Milton's spiritual geography foreshadows modern ideological polarities, spiritual exile, and the search for moral clarity. Now let's analyze the main quotes from Book Second. First one. My sentence is for open war. Of wiles more unexpert I was not. Spoken by Moloch, line 51-52. Moloch demands immediate and open war against heaven, scorning cowardly delay or secret strategy. His voice represents a wrath, vengeance, and nihilism, believing that annihilation is better than submission. This quote exemplifies the extremism and futility of unthinking rebellion. Now let's talk about the next one. The mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. Spoken by Satan in line 254-55. Satan asserts that one's internal perception defines reality more than external circumstances. He claims he can remain powerful and free even in hell by reframing his suffering as sovereignty. The quote reflects Satan's pride and delusion and is one of Milton's most quoted lines on mental autonomy and moral relativism. Now the next quote. Belial came last, than whom a spirit more lewd fell not from heaven, or more gross to love, wise for itself. The narrator tells in line 108 and 110. Belial, though eloquent and graceful, is deeply corrupt and morally empty. Milton condemns him for embracing sin, not out of rebellion or ambition, but a pure laziness and cowardice. This shows how evil can be passive, subtle, and clothed in civility. Now the next quote. But all was false and hollow, though his tongue drooped manna and could make the boss appear. The better reason. Narrator on Belial, line 112. 101:4. This famous quote critiques Belial's deceptive rhetoric, which sounds sweet and wise, but it promotes inaction and vice. His words can distort a moral reasoning, making evil seem reasonable. It echoes concerns from Renaissance humanism about a rhetoric without ethics. Now the next quote. To reign is worth ambition, though in hell, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Satan says in book 1st, line 262-63, and echoed again in book 2nd's tone. Though originally from book 1st, this sentiment drives book 2nd's action. Satan prefers ruling in misery over obeying in glory, showing his rebellious pride. His mission to corrupt earth is founded on this desire for independent, even damnable authority. Now the next quote. Let us not then pursue by force impossible, by leave obtained unacceptable, though in heaven. Spoken by Belial in line 234-36. Belial argues against war and submission, insisting both options are equally futile or dishonorable. He chooses elegant despair, couching cowardice in the language of prudence. This quote reveals the danger of selective inaction and spiritual apathy. Now the next quote. Mammon led them on. Mammon, the least directed spirit there fell from heaven, for even in heaven his looks and thoughts were always downward bent. Spoken by the narrator in line 229-232. Mammon embodies material greed and short-sightedness even when in heaven. He focuses on gold, power and worldly pleasures, suggesting that corruption existed even before the fall. This vision for hell is a capitalist empire of glittering ruin. Now the next quote. Let us rather build our own good from ourselves and a joy in our own shapes, if this be our condition, thus law to suffer and to do. Spoken by Mammon in line 250-253. Mammon proposes self-sufficiency to accept their fallen state and build a thriving kingdom in hell without a God. His philosophy echoes Enlightenment humanism, but lacks a moral compass. Milton critiques this as a false freedom built on selfish pride. The next quote. The terms we sent were termed ignoble and base, yielded with cunning, not with courage won. Spoken by Beelzebub in line 337-38. Beelzebub rationalizes the defeat as unjust and mocks the idea of submitting to God's mercy. He twists their shame into strategic necessity, sowing seeds of deceit. This reflects satanic logic, the manipulation of language to justify rebellion. Now the next quote. Some new race called man, this would be a matter of easy intercourse for him and a hope of retribution. Spoken by Beelzebub in line 348-357. Beelzebub introduces the plan to corrupt man, a new creation made by God. By targeting man, they can indirectly hurt God and upset the divine order. This marks a turning point in the poem, launching Satan's journey and humanity's looming fall. Now the next quote. He who reigns, monarch in heaven, till then as one secure, sat on his throne. Spoken by Beelzebub in line 358-360. This passage reflects the devil's bitter envy of God's calm and absolute authority. represents Satan's mission as a way to disrupt divine peace. Milton subtly reinforces that hell's rebellion is rooted in jealousy, not justice. Now the next card. None among the choice and prime of those heaven-warring champions could be found, so hardly as to proffer or accept alone the dreadful voyage. Spoken by the narrator in line 423-26. No angel volunteers for the dangerous mission to earth except Satan. Despite their earlier bravado, the devils hesitate, exposing the hollowness of their courage. Satan's offer to go himself is both heroic and self-serving. Now the next card. Hell saw heaven ruining from heaven and would have a flood with the horror back, but Satan with the bold words stayed them. Narrator speaks on a death and sin in line 871-74. When a death tries to attack Satan, sin stops him, recognizing Satan as their father. This grotesque family dynamic, born of pride and incest, highlights the monstrous consequences of rebellion. Milton literalizes theological evil in dramatic physical terms. Now the next card. Before their eyes in sudden view appear the secrets of the hoary deep, a dark, illimitable ocean without bound. Spoken by the narrator in line 892. This description of chaos paints a vast, shapeless abyss, the antithesis of divine order. Satan's journey through it signifies his passage through metaphysical uncertainty, spiritual danger, and existential dread. Milton evokes both awe and horror, reinforcing Satan's isolation. Now the next quote. Thus Satan and him thus the Anna called, with a faltering speech and a visage incomposed, answered. Spoken by the narrator in line 960 and 962. Chaos, the ruler of the unformed abyss, is presented as unstable and hesitant. He allows Satan to pass, welcoming the disruption he might cause. This scene underscores how Satan thrives in disorder and how evil spreads through opportunity rather than strength.